debate, Joe Biden and Donald Trump. We just spent time talking primaries, and we talked about the Senate race in Pennsylvania with Dave McCormick. And the whole question is, what happens to Joe Biden's agenda, the legacy, if you will, policy-wise, if Donald Trump wins the White House? If, say, the Senate turns Republican? That's the whole point here for Dave McCormick. He's talking about unwinding programs that Joe Biden put into place. Of course, one of the crowning achievements, if you ask the White House, of this administration is the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, which Republicans have plans for. And by that, I mean dismantling if they have the chance. Nathan Dean has been crunching numbers for us and looking at the various scenarios, the possibilities here at Bloomberg Intelligence. He is, of course, senior U.S. policy analyst and a dear friend of the program. With us now, Nathan, great to see you again.
Well, thanks for having me.
So let's say this goes ours on both ends of Pennsylvania Avenue. You can pass anything you want. How would they go about chipping away at the Inflation Reduction Act, in many cases already in effect?
Yeah, so the first thing to note is when you say chip away, that's the correct mindset to have, is chip away. It's not going to be a full repeal. We're getting a lot of questions from non-U.S. investors, especially because you have these broad, big industrial utility equipment manufacturers and so forth that want to spend a lot of CapEx and put a lot of infrastructure in the United States, and they don't want to do this if they think the IRA is going to go away. Now, what we think will happen is two avenues. One, you have the reconciliation process. That presumes that the Republicans take the House and the Senate and the presidency, and because tax reform is going to have to be done next year, a lot of the tax credits, the carrots, if you will, of the IRA will be at risk. Now, it's hard to say which ones just at this point because, you know, we have just high-level statements, but the EV tax credits in particular, so if you're Rivian or Tesla, that's something to be pay attention to. The other thing is that the Treasury Department, when they implemented the IRA, used a lot of broad guidance, and they took a lot of broad view of these tax credits. So a Trump-era Treasury Department or IRS could actually use the rulemaking process to actually alter or restrict some of those as well. And that ranges the gauntlet from, you know, just obviously a lot of the solar tax credits for solar and phase, all the way to some of the, like I just mentioned, the EVs and also some of just the clean energy stuff.
So if you take away the carrots and you just have a pile of sticks here, then the system, the law, doesn't really work in the way it was intended, right? And it kind of brings us back to the idea of when Republicans were going after Obamacare to remove the mandate. And if you remove the mandate, the rest of the program doesn't work. Is that a strategy in itself?
Yeah, it's possible, but we think that we don't think that's going to happen because the reason being here is you're talking about $369 billion in investments plus these tax carrots and so forth like that. A lot of this is going to Republican states. Now, if you remember President Biden back in the State of the Union, he was talking about the IIJA, but not the IRA. It's the similar mindset. If you don't want to take credit for it, I will. And there are Republicans out there saying, look, these dollars that are coming from Washington, they may not be saying it's the IRA, but they want them in their districts. Now, ultimately for us, what happens is if President Trump wins, it's just a matter of who's speaking into President Trump's ear, who's trying to advise him and so forth. It's going to be really coming down to his advisors and the regulatory leadership because, you know, I may say these tax credits are bad on the campaign trail, but these tax credits may actually be benefiting my constituents.
You might want to show up with that ribbon cutting when the project comes to town. Solar stocks have been brutalized recently. Is this part of the reason why?
You know, I think it's just a matter of a combination of maturing industry plus, you know.
Really?
Well, and my colleague Rob Barnett is the one who covers renewables, and you know he likes to tell me, look, solar's just not going away. And so, you know, the idea of solar technologies are getting cheaper over time. In fact, Rob has this great chart. He calls it like the reverse hockey stick. And the forecast for his solar outlook is just nothing but positive. So even if there's just, you know, industry or if there's stocks that are being hammered right now, I think a lot of it just is this industry is still growing, and the IRA is very much an important part of that.
Do Republicans need the House and the Senate to do away with the IRA?
No. No, because you can do the second way is you can use the Treasury Department and the IRS to amend some of these tax incentives.
But if we'll say a full repeal were the goal here.
Exactly.
You need to write laws.
But I don't think the full repeal is the idea here because remember how the Democrats got this in view was reconciliation.
Yes, right.
Avoid the filibuster.
Yeah.
Now the Republicans are going
to use. I haven't heard that word for a minute.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we could talk about the bird rule, but we put some people to sleep.
Bird bath.
But you know, we've already seen statements from the Republicans that they're going to use reconciliation if they get the House and the Senate and the presidency to address tax reform.
How about that?
This can be incorporated into this. And so the question then becomes, okay, well, we want to keep these electric vehicle tax credits. I'm sure Tesla, let's say Elon Musk, is whispering in the ear that we want to keep it. Well, what's the pay for, and how much is that worth when we also want to try and extend the individual tax cuts? So it just really comes down to who's over the House Ways and Means Committee and a lot of that. So right now we're just playing scenario analysis, but as time and time gets on, this report that we've been updating will get more specific and more specific.
I just love the fact that you can sit here with me and talk about pay-fors with a straight face, knowing that no one is going to try to pay for any of the stuff that we're talking about here, right?
I'm an optimistic
That's
person.
God love you. This is why we need Nathan Dean in Washington. By the way, find Nathan's tips on where to find AC on the mall if you're coming to town. They mean more this week than they did last week, right? We're going to get to 100 or something.
Exactly.
Thanks for coming by, as always. Bloomberg Intelligence.